things like, oh yeah, they make you fit to stupidly difficult targets.
We might actually be online.
Oh.
But I don't know.
No.
Yeah, no, look, it's starting online.
Oh, we are now. Yes.
I think we are. Because there's 2 ways to set a stream up in YouTube, and we may just... There's a go live page.
Hello,
here.
kitty. Look, there's the camera over there.
I'm not sure if we're live or not. Are we live?
Well, it's yeah. Look, it says big live button.
Oh, the internet can totally see you now. To start user and get right. Yeah, we're live. That was a very smooth introduction then.
As always, hello.
Hi.
They probably can't hear you because the mic's over here, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Hello. I'm coming. Right.
Babe, not on camera.
Wow. You went there already. We've only just started.
Yes, because we're doing a Saturnalia special. Because Christmas, that was so when Christians took over regular traditions like Saturnalia, that was all about slaves becoming masters and masters becoming slaves and lots of orgies and food and amazing stuff going on. The true origin of Christmas, which was what we're kind of celebrating now, and you're showing personal details on camera. I'll just keep talking. We have beer, as usual, although Becky drank a 6.5% beer very, very quickly. So she's going to be having, what is it? Hitachino Nest, which is one of her favourite go-tos. I'm having something from Mad Squirrel Brewery, which I've had one of these before, but I've never heard of the brewery apart from that. This one, appropriately, is called Roadkill, because this is going to be a total roadkill of a stream. Although I love how it says in the back here, Roadkill, don't drink and drive.
I'm having trouble with the live chat.
Oh dear, well, we need to get it up anyway, so we could just do it manually for the minute.
We could, but you know, we have this nice thing.
We do have a nice thing, yes.
The thing is, I wrote it over a year ago, a couple of years ago now.
Oh, yeah, I mean, is the domain still valid?
It looks like there might be problems.
We are totally organised.
Yeah, and of course you're now making loads of really loud banging noises for everyone. Hopefully the sound, I should go in the other room. Why don't? We have some special people to thank.
Yes, we do.
We have some special people to thank, so why don't I set the screen up so you can do that, and then I'll go in the other room and check the sound.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'll try and figure out chat in a bit. Yeah, they're right there. Okay.
Yes, we do have new patrons, or patrons, as Becky likes to call them, which we are going to announce in a moment. But also we have a load of new subs, which is really cool. So thank you first to the new subs, but also thank you to our sponsors, which I can see in a list there, and I should be able to read because I have a new lens prescription, which I'm sure you'll want to know. So we've got AJ, we've got Ormba, Dave. Oh God, is that Poirier, and Mark Threlfall. Hello, Mark. And we have Russell Higgins. Oh, because there's a scroll. No, that is all of them. So, thank you to our patrons.
Thank you, guys. No, seriously, it's amazing that you are supporting us. Badunk, thunk, bang. It's amazing that you're supporting us, and thank you so much for doing that, because like a lot of what we do, we make a loss on this channel, most notably around the postage for Com+1. So thank you for all of your help, because it really does help. This is a loss-making enterprise, and your assistance really does make a difference. So thank you.
You
we're going to be talking today about McGuffins.
Yes.
But before we get to that, feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'm going to try and get it up on screen now, whilst Jason blags for time.
Yes. So come on, you keyboard warriors. Draw your metaphorical swords and type stuff. Type stuff to us. Say hello. What kind of questions do you want us to answer? Preferably, role-playing related, because that's what Ask a Double DM is. But yes, in any case, we haven't been on for ages, have we? Because we've been doing all the Com+1 stuff. We have been planning Complex 2 in the works, and it's all very exciting. I'm just going to move the mic back here a little bit so the clicking is not too loud. But we thought we would do something just a little bit chillaxing, that's now a word, before we break up or do family stuff for holidays, for Christmas, for Kwanzaa, for Saturnalia, for Yuletide, all the other cool stuff. And that's a lot of code I can see on there. I'm going to
text editor that I can use.
Well, that's because I'm not a coder. But in the meantime, I'm going to taste this beer.
Oh, we need to tell everyone that we're in the middle of a load of video releases, because normally what we do...
Yes.
Am I on camera? I don't know. Normally what we do around Christmas is not produce any videos.
Yes, but we decided, no, that's silly.
Well, the thing is, like, YouTube these days is all about regularity of content. Like, it doesn't matter if you do high quality content.
Wow,
and that means
full shot here.
Pair of Geeks kind of suffers a little bit, because we like to take our time with our videos and do what we hope are good videos that you really enjoy. The problem with that is the problem is,
there we go.
whereas what YouTube used to do, if you got views on a video, is it would get more popular over time.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and then the good videos would get lots and lots of views. Oh, I've got beer.
You do. Please don't drink that too fast this time.
These days, however, YouTube is all about regularity of posting. So people who do videos once or twice or 3 times a week get a lot more exposure on YouTube. But if we did videos like that frequently, they'd be terrible. Like everyone else is who does them that often. And we don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's like that very popular meme of, you know, if you take time, it's going to be better quality, whereas if it takes like 5 minutes, it's going to be rubbish quality.
Yeah. And that's what YouTube wants. It wants rubbish quality stuff. And we're holding out, just doing our occasional, you know, videos every few weeks type thing. But because we filmed so much stuff for Com+1, basically for the Com+ convention, we filmed throughout the year. In addition, this is why you get less videos as well on Pair of Geeks these days. We film throughout the year, and that means we've got loads of videos that we filmed, and they did air during the Com+1 convention, but not everyone's seen that.
Yeah.
So,
and you know, if you're on like a lunch break and you got like 5 minutes, you can watch Ian Livingstone.
Yeah.
Speak to me.
And he's already said that he's interested in backing us next year. In fact, he wants to do more with us. So that was really cool. He's a really great guy, actually.
Yeah, he's really nice.
We've already started filming for Com+2, actually. Now, not to plug our Patreon too much, but we do let the Patreon guys see the stuff early.
Yeah.
So our patrons actually saw what we're airing at the moment on the channel about a year ago or half a year ago.
Well, not a year, but they saw it before the con, because we did the interviews.
From about June, we were putting them out every week.
Yeah, we kind of sort of drip them through. So yeah. if you want to see like interviews and stuff before anybody else, like before the con, whatever, then that's one reason to subscribe to our Patreon.
So anyway, we are currently doing like a sci-fi spectacular. So I released a Twilight Imperium video this week, which isn't RPG related.
It's massive.
It's over an hour. I couldn't actually release it in 4K. My computer wasn't powerful enough to actually produce a video that big in 4K. But yesterday I aired finally the Amanda Hammond-Coons interview. Now, she is one of the co-authors at Paizo for Starfinder.
And also very nice.
She is lovely, actually. I really like.
Well, you got to sit next to her. I was jealous.
Wow.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got to look through a small lens and like watch you both, like with the nice chemistry between you. But you got to sit next to her.
You're supposed to be in a relationship with me. Okay,
I didn't mean
tomorrow.
That. Just
so tomorrow,
she's a big person in the industry. That's all.
Well, she is. She's
not everything has to be like to do with sexual love and stuff.
Wow, that's twice already this stream. So tomorrow I'm airing Oliver Hume interview that I did. Now he is the author of the Elite Dangerous RPG based on the ever popular computer game. And we go right back to the birth of Elite and start talking about playing it in the 80s and stuff. So that interview's coming tomorrow.
This is before my time. I had no idea what Elite Dangerous was, but you ran over and your retro...
No, they chased us down, actually.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. Because
I thought you just saw them on a whim and thought, oh my god, I must interview them.
No, we don't, the rig's downstairs. But I've often said that the biggest conversion rate tool we have for getting new sponsors is the camera rig, because we literally get people chasing us down to try and get us to film them when we go to conventions. Because we look like we're some kind of big press outfit.
I just remembered something that was really funny. One of the interviews at Dragon Meet that we did, again, because of the big rig, most people saw it and thought, oh, I won't go that way, I'll go around. But there was one person
just walked straight in front of
the and there were these guys opposite on their stall, and they're like, no, what are you doing? Oh. And he just obliviously walked straight through, and I'm just...
Yeah. But, I mean, it is the camera rig.
So yeah, you're on a stream, you person.
Yeah, but the camera rig is a head turner, isn't it? And the thing is, so Elite Dangerous actually sent a runner after us and said, do you want to come and talk to our guys? And we were like, wait, there's an Elite RPG? And I was like, whoa!
Again, like...
this is my childhood! So, that was an amazing interview. That's coming tomorrow. I must remember to do that now I've said it. Also coming up in the next few days, we're going to be releasing... I spoke to Matthew Sprange of Mongoose Publishing. He is the man behind the new Traveller.
Yes.
Which is it's a classic RPG from back in the day. It has new additions and it's great. We talk quite a lot about Pirates of Drenax as well, because we gave that away during Com Plus, which is their...
so big and heavy.
Yeah, it's an amazing module. And we're also going to air Lloyd's interview with Sam Webb, who's the Star Trek RPG author.
Yes.
So all of that's coming up. Now,
that's a sci-fi.
Have you been spending the last couple of minutes thinking about what you're going to buy time with whilst I go and fix the live chat?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. So, I'm also wanting to do a couple of videos. Because I'm kind of on and off at the minute, but I'm under quite a lot of strain mentally and stuff. I've got a channel that kind of talks about that and my transition and stuff. But yeah, so I want to do a video on specifically like musical instruments in RPGs. So we're going more back to the fantasy type stuff. And also we've been talking more about board games again. Kind of in a similar sense to Twilight Imperium, but Becky kind of did that just... I'm going to do Twilight Imperium because that's her favourite board game ever. Whereas I want to make that more of a thing, and Becky also wants to make that more of a thing. And especially because that ties into Com Plus 2, in that while it's not going to be a big presence, like board games and stuff, we're still sort of finalising that. We are going to be looking to at least... like promoting stuff and whatever. I'm being incredibly vague because we haven't really finalised anything, but the point is it's a little bit of a reflection on who we're going to be working with for Com Plus 2. And you know, we love board games. Like, RPGs are great, and obviously, like, I'm wearing this shirt which is really awesome from QWERTY, and I've done RPGs for ages, as has Becky. But a lot of the time, in real life, it's difficult nowadays to get people together. Even online, it's been tricky recently. Because people are just so busy. But with a board game, you know, shorter duration, it gets more people in. If somebody doesn't turn up, it doesn't matter so much. So they become a big part of our lives as well. So we want to put that into Pair of Geeks somehow. I've done a couple of... sort of videos, like really old videos where my voice is really high and squeaky and stuff, which we didn't air in the end, but I do want to do some more stuff with that, so hopefully that's going to come together in the works in the spring, or possibly a bit earlier in the spring for quite a big important reason. And yes, Becky is still typing, so I better think of something to talk about. Why don't I talk about this beer, because I can talk about beer all day. This beer is lovely. Not. By the way, I am not encouraging you to drink beer if you don't want to drink beer, but I have not done a beer review for a long time, and there's one person in particular on the Rogue DM who always loved my beer reviews. Yeah, this is good. It does not taste like a 6.5% beer, that's for sure. But it's got a lovely burst of some kind of berry. in there. Citrus, usual sort of citrus, a little bit dry on the back end. It's very nice. And actually, I know somebody who has shares in this company. That's how I got all these cans from him for Christmas. So if you see any Mad Squirrel, I would recommend it. I've also had, in fact, I'll hold it a bit more. So it's got like the squirrel thing there. I've had the Sumo Pale as well, which is also nice. I have not had a weak beer so far. I've got another beer in the fridge, which I might have, depending on how wasted we get. But then it is Friday, sort of, nearly Friday. And I've got another pale ale in there. Excuse me. So, why don't I take a look? I can at least have a look at the chat manually, if there is anybody here. Hi from Portugal. Hello, Rafael Carreira. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I don't speak Portuguese, but I did learn a bit of Spanish. So I hope that was okay. But hello. If you're a new sub, let us know, because I haven't seen you before. And interestingly, now that we've had Com+1 and we've had like sort of subs plus people coming in as well, with Com+1, it's almost been like, oh yeah, I recognise these people, and I'm remembering their names more and things like that, because normally I'm terrible with names. But no, Raphael, I can remember that name. That's cool. I have been subscribed for a while. Fantastic. That's wonderful to hear. Well, go ahead. Ask us any questions. What is burning on your mind for RPGs? We are going to be talking mainly about McGuffins, but, you know, if you've got any further questions, do let us know. Yeah, how are you getting on there, Becky?
I'm having some difficulty. So basically, I just got my development environment open to have a look at the problem, and it looks like it's not straightforward because we haven't used this in so long. I think it's basically broken.
Well then, we'll have to just use the regular chat.
Well, I might spend just a couple of minutes on it, but I can hear you going to extreme padding at the moment. So
yeah.
There was something else I wanted to say, which I thought of whilst I was sat out there, and I've left my beer out there as well, so I've got to go back at some point.
Excuses.
Yeah, many excuses. Now, you spoke about board games at Com+2. Yes. It's kind of at the moment, it's on the I would like to list. So yeah, we want to do more board game stuff for Com+2. We just don't quite yet know what shape it'll take. But on the topic of Com+1, there are still 2 people waiting for
yes, yeah.
When you talk about that, I'm gonna...
Yes, I will. So, we've basically been waiting for ages for certain books to arrive from Angry Hamster Publishing. The good news is they have finally turned up. That there was apparently, I mean, I feel really sorry for them actually, because basically they sent out the prizes for us with their Kickstarter all at the same time, and the whole shipment was just lost. Like they could not trace it. That their postal service could not trace it, and there were a lot of backers, and that to me is quite horrifying and appalling that they could just lose an entire shipment like that. But they still sent us 2 more copies, and they were slow to arrive, but they have finally reached us. So for those 2 wonderful people who we have informed about the issue with the delay, we now have everything we need and we can just send it all off. Unfortunately, because it's now the 20th, it's not obviously going to come to you by Christmas, even the person who is very local and in the UK. But what we will do is we'll send them both out as soon as we can. But it's looking to be sort of New Year time that we're going to do that. But what we'll do is we'll let you know in the email when they're shipped, or when we've posted them, as it were. Oh, you're going away.
No, I'm good. Basically, I'm not going to be able to fix it whilst you're sort of here hoping to save.
Oh, so it's my fault?
No, I'm coming to save you.
Oh.
I'm coming to save you. So, yeah, just on the topic of postage, so basically, now we're just waiting for me to get paid.
Well, yeah. both of us.
Okay, so Raphael says, I subscribed after watching Becky video about Dungeons and Dragons board game review. Great video. Indeed, it helped me choose. Now, here's the thing about that video. It was one of the very first videos I filmed.
I don't even know you did that video. It's so
old.
Yeah.
It's way before you joined the channel. Way before I even knew you. It was. And the thing is, I've always hated that video. But it is our most watched video.
I thought the most watched video was the Blood Rage one.
No, that's like second. The D&D board game review is basically me holding the miniatures up to the camera, not knowing how to focus the camera, for about 40 minutes.
Wow.
And I went through every single D&D board game at the time. I later did the video for the Temple of Elemental Evil that came out later. I never bought the giant one. Because there wasn't enough minis in it. And I've got Reaper Giants, which are big.
Well, this is why we need to do more board game.
We do need to do more.
Stuff.
Well, I was looking at this the other day. I looked at our top 10 viewed video. And the top 7, seven of the top 10 were board game videos. Because we occasionally do them. But the problem is, most of our content is role-playing content, and it doesn't get the views.
Raphael's requested us to do a review of Dungeon of the Mad Mage when that comes out.
Isn't that an RPG supplement?
It's a new board game coming soon, he says.
I thought Dungeon of the Mad Maze was a 5e supplement.
I will look it up while you do some padding.
Okay, I will now pad. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's not actually pad, because I'm back now and we're together. Let's talk. Apparently it's going to become one. So it is a supplement and it's going to become.
Yeah,
a
I was
going to
say because that was the book that was released recently.
Okay.
I haven't really followed 5e for a little while.
Well, if I was to review the board games now of D&D, I mean, I don't know if I would, because they're not the kind of games that we play together.
No, not really.
The thing about the D&D board games, like I used to buy them for the minis because I like to paint the minis myself, and normally with D&D you can only buy the very overpriced pre-painted minis. They're not really overpriced because the problem is they're pre-painted. They're going to be expensive.
Yeah.
They're actually really cheap for pre-painted, but they don't meet boom 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 ba-dum, boom.
I'm doing it so gently, seriously.
But I'm still here. And really, you do. You Anyway, the thing is, those board games. In fact, they can probably hear every time we put our glasses down on the table. To be honest, those board games, they're. I bought them for the minis so that I could paint them, so I could get some D&D minis.
But then you opened them and realised they were pre-painted.
No, they're not.
You just said they were.
No, normally when you buy D&D minis, they're pre-painted.
Oh, I see. Makes sense.
Mark Khalil says, can you do a review of a video game, Pathfinder Kingmaker?
Oh, I did see that on Steam, and it seemed interesting. It wasn't something that I wanted to pick up straight away. I might get it a bit later, but again, like that kind of stuff, especially video game RPGs, I've never really gotten into them because I know you have, but I think the thing that got me the most about those is that like they start off and they're good, but you quite often have to either grind to get strong enough, or you have to do certain things in order to pass through various story arcs. Whereas when you're doing it as a tabletop game, it's always like it doesn't matter if you fail. There's always some kind. There's always some kind of outcome, and
the experiences don't compare. But no, I do like playing RPGs on computer, as computer games, because for me, I love games that are long plays. So, you'll never catch me playing Candy Crush. I'm always like, I'll play a game that has no end. No. And I'll play it a lot, as he can attest. Like at the moment, I'm playing City Skylines, and
yes, a lot.
And yeah, because like I've built this massive city. I've unlocked almost absolutely everything in the base game now. All I have to do, the next thing I have to unlock is I have 2 things left to unlock out of the hundreds and hundreds of things.
It's just funny because like the first type of these games you played was the 911 game, and you played that to death. Then you did your Formula 1 game.
Oh, Motorsport Manager. Yeah. I still have uncompleted goal in that actually, because I won the main championship for endurance, but now there's GT cars. Oh, no. Oh my god. So, but the thing is, that kind of thing we would never do on the POG main channel. We have a second channel for live plays.
We have done a couple of video game live plays, like we did Pandemic that one time.
Not Pandemic, it's called something else.
Plague
Inc. Yes. We'd use the multi-camera feature of YouTube for that, which is really quite cool. So at any point in the game, you can switch to either one of us. So we're both doing our own kind of coverage of the game. That's quite cool. Yeah. And that's on POG too. So we do occasional computer games there. But the thing is, I don't think we are the people to do computer game reviews. Mostly because, I don't know. I mean, I've been in and around the gaming industry for a lot of my life. I've released a lot of computer games that I've written. I know a few people in the industry, and I think the way I look at a game is very much like when I play a computer game, I'm mostly looking at how the hell did they do that? How does this effect created? And if I start playing a computer game, the instant reaction I get is, okay, I now want to go and write this, or use that effect. So I want to pull that effect, and I want to do a game based on that effect. I would never get anything done, and that's kind of why I stopped playing computer games. I now play so few games. Yeah. And it's like I'll go months and months at a time without playing a computer game. Why not? Yeah. In fact, I think when we first moved in together, I don't think I even touched a computer game in the first year. No. Because the thing is, if I did, he'd never see me again.
Yeah, I mean, you do sometimes go on quite long escapades with, say, for example, City Skylines for a few hours.
Yes, this is it. Once I start playing a game, I play it to death, and I utterly complete that thing. And I'm also just finishing off Shadowrun Director's Cut at the minute for Dragonfall. I'm in the manor, which I think I get the impression that's near the end. So yeah, I'll have that one in the bag soon.
Shadowrun did look quite good. I did play that very briefly ages ago.
Yeah, I played the original one, Dead Man Switch, completed that. And
what I need to do is actually complete KOTOR, because I've started that game about 4 bloody times.
What?
KOTOR,
Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. You've not played it?
I have started it about 4 times.
1 or 2?
As in the first game.
Okay.
And I own it, but I've never played it really that far in. And I know everyone says it's like, oh my god, boy, it's amazing.
It was the best RPG game ever. It's quite dated now.
I remember I think the furthest I got, it was on like the first sort of city planet. I can't remember what it was called. And then there was this like splinter group and stuff was going on. So I went down this specific route of like going into the underbelly of the city.
I vaguely remember.
I did an encounter that was really hard and completely like fucked me over and stuff.
Completed them both. But what killed that series for me was that bloody online version, which I've always called the Guitar Hero of MMOs.
Yeah, well, as Raphael said, like with the Elder Scrolls, it was the same, and that they did the whole Elder Scrolls Online thing.
Yeah, I mean, there was incidentally there was a coding group like who were doing a free remaster of Knights of the Old Republic, and it got shut down by the publisher.
Wow.
They was it that game? I'm pretty sure it was that game. They were bringing it up to date.
What they need to do for me, because this is the type of game that I play, is they need to do Half-Life 3, but obviously that's never going to happen.
But role-playing games and McGuffins, we're meant to be talking about RPGs. This is our channel for playing games in real life without computers.
Yes.
albeit sometimes online with computers.
Yes.
So what is a McGuffin?
Well,
do you want me to answer that, or do you want to
I was going to say, because you're the one who came up with this topic idea.
I did. And it's because... I tell you why, it's because...
Well, I see McGuffin as like a dashing hero, right?
Are we saying Raphael wrong?
Maybe.
I
did say I didn't know Portuguese, just Spanish, so I know there's a big difference in pronunciation.
Huge.
So.
Portuguese has that funny R sound you say through the nose that an English person cannot do without literally blowing their nose. No, it's a very nasal sound. I can't do it.
Okay.
I was taught how to do this sound 3 hours non-stop by a Portuguese person with alcohol, and the only thing it achieved was my sinuses were clear for 3 days afterwards.
Oh.
You know, it was amazing from that perspective. But no, it can't be done.
Apparently you said it right.
Raphael. Yeah.
But I also said Raphael.
You kind of say it more IL. It's Raphael.
Raphael.
I think it's a name.
The problem is I'm kind of like gravitating towards the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I know is Italian. Raphael.
You and pizza. Anything related
it's
to
nothing
pizza?
to do with pizza. Jeez. I mean, yes, I do pizza, but it's like, you know, Raphael, Donatello, Leonardo.
Jason loves 3 things in life: pizza, beer, and gaming.
And you?
Oh, thank you.
It's okay. But it wasn't pizza that made me think of Raphael.
Right.
So.
McGuffins. So.
McGuffins.
A MacGuffin is a plot contrivance. It is...
Oh, that's right, you mentioned.
Yes. Did you not know?
Well, I forgot again, because I thought McGuffin, like, lead on Macduff.
No, it is a contrivance. It is a thing, an object, artifact, or aspect of the... You are so distracting right now. An aspect of the plot that... You can... No. Oh, God, no. You know what that reminds me of? When I interviewed Stuart and he one word answered me.
Yes.
Right.
No. What do you think of this? Yes. Hi, Stuart.
Now, where was I? MacGuffins. Yes. So it is a contrivance that exists for the sake of the plot. And it is, by definition, something the characters are meant to care about. But in the case of a story, a book or a film, the audience or reader don't. And the thing is, when you use them in an RPG, the same is kind of true. You're asking, or you know, it's important as a GM, if you introduce a MacGuffin, you're asking the characters to care about this thing. We've got to get the Tesseract to save planet Earth, right? So straight from a film there.
You've got to take this ring and throw it into Mount Doom.
That is a MacGuffin. Now, the characters care about that. The viewer don't give a damn about the ring until you associate other meanings. In fact, Tolkien did the ring quite well. The Tesseract, as the example I raised from the Transformers movies, that was done quite badly. Who gives a damn about the Tesseract in the movies? It's like, nobody cares. It's just... It was a convenience for the story.
I think with the One Ring, it was more a case of because of the lore surrounding it, and that was, you know, the mastering that was tainted, whereas there were these previous rings that were forged before then. It got a bit of a history to it.
I want to talk about that kind of aspect of making a MacGuffin good, because it is possible to do. But if you just said, right, we need to get the ring of Ujimaflop in order to achieve X, whatever it is you introduce as a GM into your game, right? This MacGuffin for the sake of the plot, you're asking your players to care about it, and of course they don't. By definition, they don't. Alfred Hitchcock said of MacGuffins that actually what I said earlier, the character cares, the viewer does not. Paraphrasing, obviously.
That's probably why there's very few MacGuffins, as far as I know, in Alfred Hitchcock movies.
There probably isn't. I guess, but haven't really seen his stuff since I was very young.
By the way, hello, Flare Scarab 777.
Ooh, any settings or genres you think D&D can support with a new product? D&D will release products for all of them in time. Give them give them time. It's coming.
Raphael's also asked, what is your favourite D&D character, your own or another person's character?
Are we talking about like a D&D character from the books? Because like I literally only know one.
I think he's clarified and said like ones that we've generated ourselves or somebody else.
I think the one that I always spring to mind as a D&D character is Agnes Truciator.
I feel complimented because I DM'd that.
Why don't you talk about Agnes Truciator while I get my breath back, and then we'll return to the topic of McGuffins.
Well, did Agnes actually have MacGuffin? No, she didn't. Okay, no.
You didn't have McGuffins particularly in that game.
I don't really tend to, because what I do with that is I focus a lot on the setting and the NPCs, rather than say like, oh, you must take this thing or you must do this thing to that thing. But yes, Agnes Truciator was a fantastic character, I must say, because basically she was an anti-hero for a lot of it. She was somebody who was part of the law, if you will, in a very dystopian steampunk society. So, you know, it could have, I mean, say if you were somebody else, you could have completely taken her off on one and made her really evil.
When you said part of the law, I think it's important to clarify you're talking about police law.
Yes,
not
LAW.
Law. Yeah,
I've just realised, LA, as in that kind of law, not the law. I mean, the law is part of the law, but yeah, so she loved giving people citations and saying that they were breaking the law and things like that, and she was all about order and going to queue for things because it pleasured her and weird stuff like that. But in the end, she completely snapped when she realised just how bad and corrupt this organisation was that created this society, and she was a paladin as well, so she changed her methods and became much more empathic for other people around her.
So I think the highlight for me was when I gave the citation to the undead Naga.
Oh God.
This creature that's so much more powerful than me, and I'm writing out a citation.
They've been sent through this huge complex, basically to die in an accident, but they managed to get to the bottom. They found this really old airship that had been there since it crashed, so at least I think it was 10 years ago or something, and an undead Naga was guarding it. And I'd set up this wonderful scene where they found little clues of, oh, who was it who died here and things like that. And it was a really cool airship pirate crew that had been outlawed and all this stuff. And basically, Agnes completely ruined it by trying to arrest my boss.
I didn't ruin it.
Well, no, you didn't ruin it, but it was just a complete change of tone. It was just like, I built all this stuff up and you were getting into all the picking out little bits of story, and then suddenly it was like, right, you're under arrest. To this mystical creature that you would have never seen or heard of before.
Well, it broke the law. So as a paladin, she went through 3 stages. She was at first, she was absolute law. Then she was broken by the system.
Yep.
And she became an anti-paladin for a while.
Yep.
Because the law she represented was a great evil, and that was kind of the whole plot of the campaign. And then finally she became a paladin of love. Now I forget exactly what the D&D-ism for that is, but she found love for, again, basically, in her friends and comrades and family,
which you eventually reunited with,
and then had to kill.
Oh yeah.
Well, I killed the mother.
No. I'm talking about, like, it didn't, after the end of the campaign, you went back to your farm or something.
Went back to the farm, but that was just closure for the character. Yeah. That was the end of the hero's journey for her. Because I do like to do that. When I play a character in a campaign, I very much like to do the full hero's journey if I can. And if a GM's not on board with that, it can be very unsatisfying, I think.
Why would a GM not be on board with that? That
because they're
really
more
cool.
focused on their own story than the characters. And I think if you're going to play in a campaign, I personally like my journey to go through the whole hero's journey. Like my hero to go through the whole hero's journey. Whereas some GMs just want to tell their story of whatever apocalypse is going on, and don't care about your character's own personal journey. So
that's silly.
We've had more questions.
We have. We've answered that. Do you write an outline for a huge storyline and then play just a chapter each get together?
Well, I think a get together takes as long as it takes is the first point.
Yeah, I've said that.
There's a huge difference between an online game and how I prepare for that and how I prepare for a real life game.
Yeah. With real life, the most fundamental thing is people are going to come to your house for like 7-8 hours plus, as opposed to like a 2-3 hour game online.
Well, I do for us because we our friends come a long way to play our real life games, so we make it an all day thing.
But I've also had that before with other groups. Like I had a group down in Ascot, and we get together for like 8 hours at a weekend.
Yeah.
So to me that seems more of a thing.
I prepare for that very differently. So when I'm doing an all day game, I will have my big outline for the story, and it's not an outline in terms of this is what is happening over the course of the whole adventure.
Yeah.
It is an outline of this is the threat against the world. Yeah. During the course of the game, I did a whole video on actually how I do sandbox campaigns. So at the start of the session, I know what's going wrong with the world, and I might know a few details, a few key NPCs. At the very beginning, on the first session, I'll know roughly who the main players are for that key storyline. I'm slightly slurring my speech because this is a strong bit. Well, I've had a strong bit. Anyway, I will then also, in a real life game, I will plan one special encounter. So what I usually do is build some new scenery set piece, some amazing thing that my players haven't seen before. The last time...
yeah, I was going to say the last one was very cute.
Yeah, that was... I made a dungeon that I threw away after the game, so it was meant to be a one-off thing. And when I say I made it, I mean this was moulded and everything. But I couldn't have kept it anyway because I cast it out of ice. It was an ice dungeon. It was a Yeti cave with an ice dragon as well. Now, the dragon was a clear, transparent model. But I put some Yeti models in there, and I made the dungeon scenery out of ice. There are pictures of that on the Pair of Geeks Facebook page somewhere, if you scroll down. I think the time before that, I mean, I usually, what I used to do was get a new dungeon set for these weekend games, or a new outdoor scenery or something. I think the one before that was the desert scenery. But we are in limited storage space now, so Becky's not allowed to buy more.
I think for me, I've only done a few sort of really long sessions, like 8 hours, and most of the time I've done Cthulhu. For me, that works because Cthulhu is quite slow paced anyway, and there's lots of details in it. So when I've done, say, Cthulhu games, it's always been like a one shot, but it's detailed, so it gives players room to explore a certain area, gather information, set shit off that causes problems and things like that. And for me, that way of storytelling just works, in that the way I tell it just seemed to work very well. Like I really enjoyed the wedding game that I ran.
Oh yeah, well I wasn't in that one.
You only did it here.
Oh yeah, we replayed it here, didn't we? Yeah, yes.
And what was nice about that was there wasn't the pressure of the 4 hours. Because again, I do put quite a lot of detail into Cthulhu, or if I don't plan it, I feel like I have the ability to put a lot in, on the fly, just because of the type of story it is. So you guys had a lot of room and things to breathe, and there were some funny moments in that one as well. I've just remembered. Like when there was a little group going off to follow an NPC, and then there was another group following the other group following the NPC up this little road. It was hilarious.
So, when I'm doing an all-day game, I'll have one special encounter, But I'll have a rough outline of how I expect the session to go. But I'm always open to it going completely off course. But what I do during the course of the campaign, any significant power, and I use the term power when I think about this, but what a power represents, it can be an individual NPC, but it can also be a country. It could be a god or a dragon. It's anything with influence over the world, any entity with influence over the world. As the players interact with these things, I start tracking them. So if they meet an NPC that's important to the world, I'll track that NPC. And I just have a document, a Word document. Usually by the end of the campaign, it's only about 3 or 4 pages long, because things do get deleted off as well as stuff dies. So, and I just track what they're currently doing at the start. So between each session, I update it. So, all right, this dragon, it was doing this. Well, it must have done that by now, so I guess for the next session it'll be doing this. And if the players go that way, they'll discover that.
Yeah, basically you're saying that your NPCs have lives.
Essentially, yes. But it's not just NPCs. It could be a country or...
Yeah.
So the whole world evolves and changes during the course of the campaign.
Yeah.
And whatever apocalypses I've set up, and when I'm doing a big campaign, there's usually multiple ways the world will end. So that all of those things are unfolding.
And that's one of the main things I do for my Cthulhu games anyway, in that I plan a lot of, okay, this is what these people are doing, this is their motives, this is their goals, and if the PCs find out this tidbit or that tidbit and put it all together, then, you know, I basically, what I do is I set up the PCs of why they're there, but then everything else I plan is all around everyone else.
Now, Glenn has asked about how I moulded the ice dungeon, so I'm going to go and get one of the moulds.
Okay.
Do you want to take the next question in the meantime,
yes.
or carry on with?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Yes. So Raphael, again, I'm sorry I pronounced it like pizza-influenced turtles. Says I recently started a new campaign. All the players are newbies. Some of them are getting the hang of the rules, class, features, skills, but some aren't. Any tips to help for those struggling players? By the way, I have been DMing for less than a year, so I'm not that experienced either. To be honest, I've been DMing for, I suppose, over 5 years in total, but I still don't feel myself as experienced, and I'm learning a lot of new things. But I think for people who are absolutely brand new, and are still getting literally used to the rules and stuff, I wouldn't make the rules a big deal. What I would do is don't even tell them how to do stuff apart from maybe character creation and take them through that. But just put them in a game, a fairly simple premise maybe, throw them into the action so they feel interested in what you're doing and invested in the story. And then keep it simple, so introduce some kind of role, for example, and tell them how that works. And
I wouldn't do that, personally. I disagree. I have a different approach. But you finish explaining your approach.
Well, I kind of finished, actually. But...
All right.
Well, I mean,
I have a different approach.
I would ease them in.
I would talk less about mechanics with them and more about story, because let's face it.
I didn't say I would talk all about mechanics.
Well, no, you were saying like introduce a role and then explain how that works type thing.
Yeah, but I don't do it at great lengths. I do it at quite a basic thing. So I say, okay, so you want to jump over this chasm, that requires a role. This is what you do. Blah blah blah.
Well, my point is, like, D&D comes in at its core level,
something.
3 books, but, like, this is the player's book, right? And it has, 316 pages of rules.
Yeah, I haven't read the player's handbook fully.
Right?
I haven't read any player's handbook fully.
Can you imagine a board game with 316 pages of
exactly.
rules? It's like, that's ridiculous. There's too many rules. And I wouldn't even worry about the rules at all, and I'd play a lot looser. Let people learn the rules over time, and you might change game for the second adventure you do anyway and play a different game. You might play Corporation or Call of Cthulhu or something else. And honestly, I play role-playing games that I have no idea of the rules on. I get a character and I play the character.
Yeah, alright, but let me be a bit more specific. I think the only main mechanic I really focus on, which with Corporation, Cthulhu, D&D, they all have some kind of skill roll. So if at any point the character has to roll for a skill, I would briefly explain why they have to do it and how they, add it up, for example. And I do that at conventions as well, when people have never played Cthulhu or whatever.
Yeah,
or
I suppose you can't avoid some rules explanation.
Yeah, but I never talk about, encumbrance, for example.
Oh, God, no.
Well, nobody does, but
that anyway, which one day I will do a video on. Right, moulds. So, these are moulds. They're proper moulds for casting resin, right? So, this is what I use to make resin dungeons. And this one here is 2 straight walls and 2 corners for an underground cavern dungeon that I have. And this one here is a terrible idea of putting 4 flat areas for a woodland dungeon I have. Now, never put multiple pieces together as one piece again. No, it doesn't work. Because there's no space between them. But when you put these on the board, there is space, and its size doesn't work. Anyway, lesson learned. So I make these molds to make my dungeon sets bigger. So I'll buy a dungeon set from a supplier, and I'll cast a mold, and I'll make it much bigger. Now I never sell this. If I make a mold of someone's work, I will not sell that. But I personally, I think if you're arts and crafting it yourself, I don't see a problem with making, buying 12 and making it into 30.
Glenn is asking, are the molds food safe?
This is proper mold making material, so yes. But it's also, it's just silicon. This just silicon. Now, dogs crave this stuff. If you have a dog, keep it away from it, because they will just eat it. The resin that you pour in, however, is not. That is quite dangerous stuff. A lot of people use like dental plaster. I don't. I hate working with dental plaster. It's a terrible material, and your dungeons don't last. But the thing is, once you've made a mold to do a resin dungeon, one day I was taking an ice cube out the freezer, and I thought, can I just make this out of ice? And of course you can. You just put water in, chuck it in the freezer, you've got an ice dungeon. It was epic. All I had to do on the table when I put it down was make sure I put down a tray and had some tissues to hand to, for
the others' reactions, because obviously I knew about it, but the others' reactions, it was quite something.
Yeah, they've seen all my Dwarven Forge setups, my secret weapon miniatures setups, and my Pedion terrain setups. I put out an actual ice dungeon to represent an ice dungeon, and it was they just couldn't believe what I was putting on the table. It was so grim and
frostbitten.
And it's just this is just a mold that I made anyway for another project. So it was cool. We have missed some questions. Should we scroll that back?
We've missed one question. Yes. From FlashCarab777.
Monsters tend to be more stupid brutes or animals. What makes a good mastermind or villain that's got plots and evil plans rather than another stupid troll? Well, that is because you're not using your good guys as villains. Like I've always said, the most horrific people in the world are lawful good, right? Because they absolutely believe what they're doing is right.
Yeah, the big bad for my campaign with Agnes was the head of state. So she was fully invested in what she wanted to do to the city and thought it was completely fine and for the good of everybody, and that was just her way of thinking. I don't think she was lawful good per se, but she was certainly lawful.
But yeah, in a D&D I don't use alignment in my games, but
no, I don't either.
In a D&D context, lawful good is quite literally the most evil character you can have.
There's a few situations There's a few situations I've been in, and this kind of makes the whole stereotype of paladins being annoying, because I quite often play chaotic good characters, for example, if you want to do the whole alignment thing. But I've seen situations where people who are lawful good, they choose the law over like empathy and morality. So if you see someone getting beaten up and tortured and whatever, even though they're a really good person, but they did this one crime. Oh, but they did a crime, so therefore they can be tortured and mutilated and all this horrible stuff. Whereas you might turn around and say, actually, no, they're a good person, they don't deserve that.
Yeah.
That's the whole balance.
I had a similar kind of conversation at work today about, because, well, not about crime and criminality, like just how much of the population will commit a crime when the opportunity is just kind of there. I mean, most people have done a bit of speeding whilst driving, right?
Yeah, but also another thing, which is quite a thing in America, is lots of people are incarcerated for extremely minor crimes such as drug possession, for example.
Only if they're black, because America.
Well, yeah, not to get too political, but little petty things like drug possession.
That's not political, that's fact.
Okay, it is fact, but not getting to real life then, whatever you want to call it. But you know what I mean? That, like, you know, something like that compared to, I don't know, murdering somebody or a paedophile. You know, it's completely different. Like, say if one of us, you know, possessed a couple of grams of an illegal drug,
would be alright with white.
Yeah, but again, can we not do the whole white thing for a minute?
Sorry, we did lose a viewer there.
Yeah. Like, can we not do that? What I mean is that is still a crime that is against the law, but it's completely different to something where, say, it harms somebody else.
Yeah, and the problem with the paladin per se is they're usually conveyed as this person who won't accept a breach of the law, and it's absolute. Yes, I have served on jury duty.
I have not,
I
thank
cannot
God.
talk about it because, you know, that's the way it is. But yes, I had to do jury. Here's my big tip for trying to get out of jury duty.
What? You can
Say,
get out?
I think, yes, because what happens is they bring you in at the start of the case, right?
I thought you said you couldn't talk about it.
I can't talk about the case that I was a jury in, but I can talk about the experience of being on jury. Now, at the start of the day, they bring you into a courtroom, and you're sort of, do you recognise any of these people? Fake it. That's my tip. Get out of it. Fake it. Unfortunately, there was another case. You can't do it twice.
Yeah, I've never had to do it. I think it's because I was born in a different country and lived there for 18 years, so maybe they've just missed me off the radar.
It can happen at any point in your life.
I know that.
Yeah.
But there we go. Anyway.
We were talking about McGuffins.
Yes.
So there is a huge difference between a good McGuffin and a bad McGuffin. And earlier I gave an example of a really bad McGuffin, which was Transformers. There was a cube that could destroy the world or something.
Okay.
And it's not the only film to have had a cube.
No. Pandora's Box from Tomb Raider.
Well, Pandora's Box, at least Pandora's Box is a thing from Greek legend. It has some lore.
Yes, but you know what I mean? It's the whole thing, oh, this thing can destroy the world.
Infinity Stones.
Oh, God.
I haven't actually seen that movie, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, because I don't know much about it.
I am not a fan of the Avengers series. Controversy! But I don't like them.
It's alright. If you watch superhero movies. Alright, we're going to segue into superhero movies. The first Iron Man movie, I still maintain...
Yes, I've heard that's a good movie.
It is. And it has an important thing. This is something I want to do a video on at some point. And I'll make these exact same points. It'll be a rehash of what I'm about to say right now.
Unfortunately, I've only seen the second movie.
Yeah, that's rubbish.
Yeah, I know.
Right, the first Iron Man movie is great because it has scarcity. Right? If you think about the Stargate franchise, right? Forget the film at the beginning.
I've not seen this, I told you.
Audience. Stargate SG-1. It was alright, but it was really light-hearted, wasn't great, right? Then they came along with all of these alternative versions of the Stargate franchise. So we had Stargate Atlantis. First series, amazing. Second series, what am I watching? And it's because of scarcity. In the first series, Atlantis was falling apart. They couldn't defend it. It was desperate. They didn't have ZPM, which is a MacGuffin. Second season, they had a ZPM. It's a jolly romp now. We're just going through the galaxy, projecting the American way. Ha ha!
America, fuck yeah.
and that is what happened. So then they did Stargate Universe. Amazing! It's desperate. They're on a broken down spaceship. They can't control it. It's on autopilot. It's just doing its thing. They're under attack. They're trying to explore worlds to get the things they need to survive. Fantastic. Scarcity is an amazing tool.
I said this to you as well about Firefly. In that I love the scarcity
Firefly.
in that.
Firefly as a TV series, amazing. They are desperate. They're going from place to place, just trying to scrape by. It has scarcity. They even at one point they break down because of a component that costs just a few credits.
Mm-hmm. And they almost run out of air.
And it nearly kills the entire crew and everything else. And it's desperate. Scarcity is a really important storytelling tool. We've missed a load of questions. So
hello, Lord Morbius and DMG info.
Favourite class and race?
Volo's guide races included.
Well, for me, it's a choice. Like traditionally, old school, first edition, I would say Ranger. You know, Elf Ranger. Yeah, it's kind of the classic Drizzt thing. Because I like doing the whole 2-weapon fighting thing. I don't know why. It just I know how unrealistic it is.
I used to do 2-weapon fighting when I was a noob.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, as long-time viewers of the channel know, I used to do sword fighting as reenactor. 2-weapon fighting is rubbish. The Florentine style, you can do it. I'd rather have a shield. But anyway, I just first edition, Jolly Romp, great stuff. However, 5th edition, I still think I've done it twice now because I enjoyed it so much the first time. Mm-hmm. A Circle of Grassland Druid with a little bit of Rogue. Because the Druid gives you loads of things that help the Rogue. It gives you Fairy Fire. It gives a Circle of Grassland specifically. You get Haste. You've got all these different tools. You've got Shillelagh. All these different tools to make your Rogue.
Shillelagh is not a 5th edition thing.
Yeah, I know, but I'm talking about in 5th edition. My favourite.
Yeah,
is
okay,
because,
yeah.
Right, and it's fantastic because you have all these you have the versatility of a Druid, but you're kind of a cool melee character. You're not super awesome melee. You're a strong melee, but you've got the versatility of being a Druid. I love that. Yeah. You're not a tank, admittedly.
No.
But
Druid's never been a tank specifically.
We have missed a load of questions.
No,
we're so sorry. Our whole thing that pops questions up, we haven't used it in over a year and it doesn't work anymore, and I need to fix it.
It's okay, but also I haven't answered. Although I'm a little bit out of touch because the most recent 5e stuff I've done is DMing. But the thing is, like, I loved the Rogue in 3.5e because I loved how you could have a load of skills and you can kind of create what kind of rogue you are based on what they are. So you could be a charlatan and be really charismatic and be able to be good at forgery, or you could be a cat burglar, or you could be an assassin type thing. And it's all based on what kind of skills you've got. And again, you have a load because you put loads of intelligence into your stats and stuff. But in 5e, I just kind of lost interest in it.
They very much went for these very strict archetypes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I didn't like that. Whereas you got to decide what kind of path you went down, again based on your skills, but you could change those and make others better and whatever. I quite liked the Bard class of 5e, I must say, and the Paladin was enjoyable. Like, I did prefer that. I didn't really play Paladin much in 3.5. It felt a bit boring to me, whereas I quite liked the different sort of schools of kind of dedication in 5e, which was okay. And the Sorcerer was alright, but I've kind of strayed away. I only played the Sorcerer
briefly. It was a campaign that unfortunately died after a few sessions.
Yeah,
so our friend Stuart was running it. And I played this kind of awesome Sorcerer because she had dreadlocks, and one of the spells that Sorcerer gets at low level has tendrils. I can't remember where the tendrils come out of. I think it's described as out the ground, but I sort of commandeered the spell, redid the spell effect as being my hair. So I had this awesome dreadlocked hair that would, kill
cute.
stuff. That was good fun. We have missed a load of questions.
Okay. But yeah, I in general I've kind of shied away from magic users because it felt like more admin, especially
What about the spell cards though? I find it so much easier.
No,
with
well,
spell
I
cards.
didn't know that spell cards existed when I first started playing D&D, but like when I looked through the book in 3.5e and saw the wizard, I'm like, seriously? And the DM at the time was like, yeah, it's my favorite class. It's like, why? It's like it's all, you're just learning spells, and that's really boring. Like, if anything, I'd rather go for a sorcerer because that's more talents than learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been scrolling back, and
Yeah.
so there's some discussion of McGuffins. We haven't finished talking about McGuffins.
No. We have, however, finished our beers. Would you like another one?
I will go and get them in a bit because
No,
what
I
I'll
can-
do.
I can
No, because if I go get them, I can very quickly top up on nicotine.
But I also need the loo.
Why don't you take a break and I'll film.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, let me come.
Please don't break my
I'm sorry
chair.
about the sound. I'm just going to move this. Okay. So, I mean, like, there is a huge difference between a good MacGuffin and a bad MacGuffin, right? So, I keep saying, like, a really bad MacGuffin, Tesseract Cube, anything like that. By default, the people at the table do not care about your MacGuffin. So, what you as a GM need to do is to get your players to care. Because that is what a MacGuffin is. It's something that your characters are meant to care about, but the audience doesn't. So when you use them as a GM, you need to find a way to get your players to care about them. Now, in role-playing is kind of based, if you like, on Tolkien. And he did an excellent job with his MacGuffin. And so the first tip I would give is to start there with your ring. You know, give it history and story, and giving it power isn't important. It's not about the power and the stats on the thing. There are, if you think back through the magic items you've given your players, and you gave that character that +6 whatever and that +3 whatever. Admittedly, in the newer editions, you wouldn't have given a +6. If you did, you were crazy. But they didn't really care about that thing. What they cared about was what it did to their character. And they'll remember fondly how their character was great. They never got hurt because they had +6 armor or whatever. Or their character did loads of damage. They don't remember that it was because of the +3 Vorpal greatsword you gave them. That's not the important thing. So if you want your players to care about your MacGuffin, you're going to need to give it some story. And we'll talk more about MacGuffins in a bit. So, hello, Lord Morbius. Now, I know Jason said hello. I didn't say hello. Scott Poe says, the Pink Panther Diamond and the briefcase in Pulp Fiction are my two favourite MacGuffins. Now, Pink Panther, I remember something about this from my childhood. I'm afraid I don't remember the details. But I do remember the MacGuffin in Pulp Fiction, the briefcase. We never see what's inside it throughout that whole film. It's a mystery to us. And that's another way you can make a MacGuffin good, is to not reveal its power. Because I mean, there are a few times where that has worked in stories. Tolkien did reveal the power, or at least most of the power of the ring. You know, we knew it made Frodo invisible. You know, we knew quite a lot about the ring by the time we'd got to through the Return of the King. But Pulp Fiction takes the complete opposite approach, and it does work. Where yes, there's this briefcase that appears throughout the film in different places, but we never see what is actually inside. But we know the characters see it. The characters will often be, are shown several times, sort of looking in the briefcase. There's a reaction they have on their face, then they close the briefcase, and we, as the audience, don't see what's inside. And I guess there must be ways to do that to the player too. But you always have to be careful with mystery and an RPG table, because if you keep too much a mystery, what you've basically done is not explained what's going on to your players, so they end up confused and not really understanding your story, and really they just start engaging in the things they do understand, which will be like the combats and the various NPCs. So whenever you have something that you want to keep a mystery, it's important to reveal enough through the mist that the players can see that you got to give them something. It's not. It's the alcohol talking. Sorry. Right. So what you need to do specifically is describe things about the MacGuffin, but leave unanswered questions in some form. You got the beer now. That's my excuse to go AFK, not removed. Right. Anyway, funny how the Pink Panther diamonds seem to be lost as a story plot after the first 10 minutes. I don't remember if they're talking about the cartoon or the film, but they both had
I'm
the
assuming
Pink
they mean
Panther
the
diamond.
film.
Well, there was a Pink Panther diamond in both.
Well, I didn't see the cartoon with the
I did.
diamond.
It's where I learned how to draw cartoon diamonds from. The Pelican Brief. I don't recall that one. Do you recall a film called The Pelican Brief?
No.
I don't either.
All I remember is, have you a licence for that monkey?
What do you think of making an elven forest city more interesting? Well, so first of all, there's a few tropes here. Do your elves make their city out of the forest or up in the forest? So that's the first question you've got to ask yourself. Because, excuse me, beer talking. So I know some people do set their elven forest sort of up off the forest floor, which is quite an interesting. I'm trying to burp at opportune moments where it sounds like a natural
so
break.
serious, it's hilarious.
I'm trying to do it with a natural break between sentences. Why don't you talk about what makes how you can make an elven city interesting, whilst I go for my break, because I also need the loo and nicotine.
Okay.
So look, here you go. Here's the microphone. Sorry about the noise, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, so I am someone who has not used elves a lot, but when I have, there is, firstly, you've got to think about, stereotypically they're very nature driven. Or in other instances, for example, if you're in a steampunk world, perhaps they're very anti-technology and they're more into, say, magic or just more natural things, or like if there's still potions, that kind of thing. And one in particular, kind of going away from the whole woodland thing for a second, is a campaign that I was in, which was a steampunk campaign, where the elves... Hello?
Sorry, it just occurred to me, and this is a weird thought, and I know you haven't played this game. I think it was Middle-earth roleplay. Elves are literally vegetables in that game.
Oh.
Like their genus is plant.
Oh.
And they grow everything else, but
cool.
like they're not actually animals. I was just going to loop on that case. Carry on talking, whatever it is you're talking about.
Yeah. So they're very purists. So they're anti-technology in certain ways, but they also utilize very pure mechanics. So they don't like sort of steam-powered stuff, but they would, for example, use flight in a lot of what they did. So they wore these very sort of mechanical wings on their back, and in the end I think we nicked a load, or we were given a load or something. So I thought that was really cool, because it's showing different aspects of technology, and that you make something from scratch and it works mechanically, or you introduce steam and other things, or diesel if you want to go down the diesel power route, for example, and do it like that. And then, for example, in Becky's campaign world After Forever After, there's a whole thing of the nostrum flower. Which I thought I'd talk about, because again, it's quite a different thing for elves. It gets away from just all nature and in trees and live forever.
But you know, nostrum's actually a Latin thing.
Yes, I know it prolongs their life, doesn't it? And
right, nostrum. I'm fairly sure it's from Latin.
Well, yeah, not nostrum. Yeah, that's definitely a Latin word.
It's basically snake oil. So it's a live forever cure. But the word is from Latin, and that's why I called it the nostrum flower.
Because it sounds cool?
No, because the word nostrum is a live forever snake oil.
Right.
Like, it has that kind of double meaning thing going on as a word. The meaning of the word.
Okay.
So in After Forever After, I thought, let's have a drug called nostrum, which actually lets people live forever, but it only affects some people, and it's humans who take nostrum that are called elves. And it gives them eldarish qualities, which are, this gaunt appearance, and the longer they take it, the more transformative power it has on them. But they're technically human, or at least started human, until they started taking the nostrum, and then they become dependent upon it. And that's my own world setting. I'm just going to nip outside. I'll be right back.
Okay, fair enough. I'll read some of the comments then. Have more than just elves in the forest city. Yeah, definitely. Like, for example, especially in worlds that are suffering quite a lot of turmoil, or say there's a region that's going through a war, would you necessarily have elves completely isolate themselves from the world? I mean, in Lord of the Rings, they sort of did that, but eventually, kind of like World War II and stuff, they felt like, okay, we do have to get involved and stuff, and it was all based on American isolation and shit like that. But yeah, like you might have immigrants, for example, who are human, or there's obviously half-elves as well, where you can treat them in really whatever way you want, and that, okay, would they be accepted, would they not be accepted? There might be other creatures living in the region. It is if you're doing a forest thing, there are loads of creatures in forests. There's loads of stuff you can play with there. Yeah, I mean, also you got to think about where the forest is, like what kind of climate it's in. So, is it something that's fairly accessible? Like, for example, just touching on Warhammer for a second, there's quite a lot of forest. That was really loud.
Yeah.
Especially in the more temperate areas, of course. But they are so massive and vast that people don't really go in because it's just so dangerous, and yet there are many races and creatures that live in there. So do you make it more like that, where it's difficult to access, or do you make it so the elves are isolationists, or they keep themselves away from the world, but the forest is really tranquil? It's very kind of, is it Lorien versus Mirkwood?
Tradespeople.
Yeah, well, I touched on immigrants, but yeah, that's a good point.
Because lifespan. You see, in a human settlement, you learn a trade in your life, and you do that trade because you don't live long enough to learn another one. But elves do. Yeah. So do they even have tradespeople, or are most people proficient in multiple trades? So what you could have that's different about an elven city is communal forges, communal fletching facilities, because people just do it themselves, because everyone has multiple disciplines of trade.
I just assumed that was the case for elves.
Well, it's an important distinction to make when you're thinking about the city, because what you've got is a much more socialist form of government. And actually, one of the things I like to think about when I create a city is, what is its form of government? Because once you've come up with that, it will often influence the laws of the city. And I often think quirky local laws are a great way to characterise a settlement. So in After Forever After, there is a city that's ruled by nostrum-taking humans, i.e. elves, and they don't actually live there, but they rule it. and their council chamber is in the centre of that city. And they don't like to be disturbed by the riffraff. So it's ruled by an intelligentsia. Now that is a form of government of intellectual elites. They consider themselves better. Anyone can become an intelligentsia by passing a really strict exam that basically tests them on every discipline ever. So, can you blacksmith? Can you fletch? Can you use a bow? Can you pass this science thing? Whatever science, I don't know. The detail's not important. So you have this group of people that once you're an intelligentsia, you are in the council. You can vote on laws. And the laws that have come out of that, this elitist way of thinking, and because these people don't even live in the city because the laws are so blinking crazy, they're ruling over people that they're really out of touch with. But in another city, I have this city in the setting that I'm using at the moment that's basically fascism, and you've got these dwarven slavers that are essentially fascist. So they have a regime, and the highest people in that civilization are members of the party, and underneath that are the military, and underneath that is the citizenry. Underneath that are, of course, the slaves, but they don't even bother to categorize those people. And so once you've thought about the government type that rules a city, and like some of them maybe like the terrain that it's in, you start to come up with some quirky local laws. So your elven city in a forest, if it's ruled by an intelligentsia, what has annoyed somebody in the council of that intelligentsia at some point? Do they hate the sound of snapping twigs? Is it illegal to snap twigs? And you get these little local laws that give a city its character and its vibe because they're things that are unique to that city.
Snapping twigs.
So, Glenn asks, off subject, have you played Gloomhaven? It reminds me of a spoof of the most complicated game. I haven't played Gloomhaven, and the reason I haven't, two reasons. Firstly, is Jason doesn't really go for tactical combat. Secondly, there's no minis. It's all cardboard cutouts, so I skipped it as a game.
It was the same with that board game that I saw at the expo, which looked really good. Now, what was it called? It was not Clash of Kings, but it was something of Kings. And it was really expensive, but there's no minis with it.
Yeah, like, WTF, people.
There's so many Kickstarters I've seen that look really impressive, but there's no minis.
I mean, mini production is an art in its own right, and it's not something that's available to everyone. But
no, but at the same time,
don't make a minis game if you can't make the minis.
Yeah.
I like the cups in
POC,
where life is gained by one but taken from another. POC.
Don't know what that is. What is that?
Yeah. So this is the stream where we ask questions of the audience.
How did you choose your avatar?
Actually, from this distance, Glenn Davis.
Oh, Pirates
like
of the
Lindy Baker's
Caribbean, also known as the Caribbean, apparently. Now, I can't remember which movie that is from because...
Oh, is that one of the Davy Jones ones?
It might be, or it might be the Blackbeard one.
I don't know. I watched all... For me, Pirates of the Caribbean is a bit like Harry Potter. Yeah, it's great, but I don't remember one film from the other.
You can't compare Harry Potter to Pirates of the Caribbean, babe.
I can, you can't.
Like, the thing about Harry Potter, yes, they were child actors, and they were not very good. And then there are things like where Harry, even as a character in the books, goes through a really tosser-like sort of stage. But I can remember all of them and what happens in them and all the plot holes and stuff. And
yeah, but...
Whereas the Davy Jones thing, I just had no idea what was going on.
Well, they were terrible films. Harry Potter films I enjoyed, but I couldn't tell you which was in what scene was in what film, and They're all kind of a blur.
Well, maybe
I'm
even
not
I can't
even
either.
100% sure if I've seen them all or not.
There is the general story arc. It's like the first one, Harry Potter. He realizes he's a wizard and that he has an enemy called Voldemort.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Exactly.
You're a wanker, Harry.
The second one is uncovering a really old legend that was put away by Voldemort, and then he comes back as his young version and whatever, but that gets destroyed. The third one is his relative and being a criminal and sorting that out. Then the fourth book is quite an important one because Voldemort comes back and all that stuff.
In the Prisoner of Azkaban.
No, the fourth book is Goblet of Fire.
Oh. Yeah. Any D&D settings you want to see return, or any settings you want to see as a D&D setting, I think there should be. Yes, for me. And I know which ones.
Well, I only really know the 3rd edition ones, and I didn't really like any of them.
You didn't like... which 3rd edition ones did you play that you didn't like?
I didn't play any of them because they all look rubbish.
Okay.
You know, there was Eberron, there was Greyhawk.
A reasonable amount of 3rd edition, though, didn't you? So
yeah, but it was all homebrew.
Okay.
And it was 3.5, not 3.
I don't particularly want to play in it, but I want to read about it, and that's Planescape.
Okay.
Because Planescape is kind of the thing that connects all the D&D lore together. And I've learnt a fair amount about it, you know, and the City of Brass, and I know a fair amount about Planescape, having never read the Planescape setting.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's that influential and it's that core to the lore of D&D. It's the hub that brings D&D together. So I'd quite like to see Planescape.
Okay.
Also, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, and I've never previously forgotten it, but this is my 3rd beer, and maybe that's part of it. The one where you've got galleons in space. And oh god, what's it called?
I don't know.
They're flying around in space in D&D, but without spaceships, because you just use ships because ships go through space.
What's wrong with any other sci-fi setting?
No, it's not sci-fi. It's fantasy.
I get that, but like,
I mean, I do that in some of my games. I'll have planets move around. Like I had a gas giant that was Asmodeus, and it was a gas giant with a ring around it, ring system, and that ring was the River Styx, and it had 9 moons in it, and each of the moons was the levels of hell. And the gas giant itself was Asmodeus. Spelljammer, thank you. Yes, I don't normally forget that one. For some reason, it skipped my mind. I never read Spelljammer. I never played in it. But of all the D&D settings, it's like the one that interests me most. Oh.
Well, yeah, because I've not had any experience in any of these settings, I'm afraid.
Okay. I mean, it's like there are settings in D&D that I just despise.
Like
Eberron.
Sword Coast.
Sword Coast is just generic fantasy. The book explaining Sword Coast, whereas it's Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, is the worst book I've ever read.
So bad.
And I read the Bible. Oops, just lost 8 subscribers. Sword Coast is a badly put together book, but it's just generic fantasy. I can't object to that as a default setting. It's the right thing to use as a default. It's a generic high fantasy setting. That's fine. I don't object to Sword Coast. If I'm going to do generic fantasy, I don't want details from that are considered canon. Generic fantasy is for creating your own homebrew stuff. Eberron is the worst D&D setting.
Okay.
Because if I want R2-D2 and C-3PO, or as they call it, Warforged, then I would play Star Wars. Because the Warforged, they're so broken. It's like, oh, you can't use heal, you have to use repair. And like everything, it's just like, these are droids. Why? What? And then they have the flying boats, but it's like the worst implementation of flying boats. Like they're just like every city ever has an airport. They're
Why?
aeroplanes instead of spaceships.
Why
When you
would
go
every
to
city
another
have an
planet,
airport?
because all you have to do is build a platform above the city for it to dock on, and when you go to when I did my Brawlers game where I had it was the closest game I've run to Spelljammer. One time the players went to another planet on the back of an eagle. Mm-hmm. Another time I think they did it on a dragon. Not that the dragon wanted them to. It's a whole story there. Another time one of the planets moved. That was Asmodeus. Mm-hmm. It was really angry with the players, so it came to their world. And made them the 10th level of hell. That was how the campaign ended. You don't need to go through space on a ship. You can make it more epic than that. The first time the players went up to the moon, they were travelling a magical beam of light from Atlantis because they'd just killed the aboleth that was suppressing the city of Atlantis, and it was all psychic stuff, and there were lizard men. But you had to be there. But
you weren't there, man.
You weren't there.
You weren't there.
So, make it more epic. And what Eberron does is it standardizes what your epic thing is. Therefore, it's not epic. Glenn Davis says you need the air spaceport due to the toxic minerals needed to power the ship. Yeah, kind of whatever with Eberron. It's just a rubbish setting. I hate it. Dungeons and Dragons Online is based on Eberron, and it suffers for it. Yeah.
So pleased I haven't played it then.
No, the DTO online game thingy, it for an MMO, it's okay.
Okay.
If you're going to play an MMO, I'd rather play one that ends at level 20 than one that ends at level 120. Like, you can literally get there in 3 or 4 weeks play.
Okay.
And yes, you can recreate at level 1 and play it again with some benefit, a +1 from your previous character. I don't know. I don't find the game objectionable. As MMOs go, I think it's reasonably well designed. The problem I have with it is it's based in Eberron, which is just appalling. You get ridiculous kobolds.
Flescarb777 is asking, angels as villains?
Yeah,
Question mark.
Totally. Because it's not just the fact that they're law-abiding, it's the fact that they believe what they're doing is right, and that makes them a villain, or good villain material. Because, if your villain's going to do something terrible like, the world is overpopulated, we must cull the population, then they have to believe that that's the right thing to do. And with belief, you can do very evil things.
That just reminds me of Northern Lights straight away.
Northern Lights?
Well, his Dark Materials series.
Explain, I don't know these words you're using. I mean, I recognise the words, just not the sentence.
It was a brilliant book series. I've got it over there somewhere. Yes, there.
Okay.
And it became extremely controversial, like way more than the whole Harry Potter controversy, because in the end they sought to kill God.
It's not... Okay, so in this book they kill God.
Not in that book, in the final book.
Okay.
They seek to destroy God and the angels and all that stuff, and it's seen as the villain. In that, it's more to do with...
Won the Carnegie Medal and the Guardian Award.
Carnegie.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a brilliant series. It's about a parallel Oxford, and everyone has a demon, which is their outer soul
yes,
and
you
stuff.
have spoken about that. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant series. But yeah, in the third book in particular, there's this whole thing of that there's like the demons and all that, and that kind of stuff in that parallel world, and then there's the real world, or our world, if you want to call it that, and the premise of God and all the stuff that comes with that, which they want to destroy, because there's also the magisterium in the parallel world, which is basically the church, and they want to destroy that.
Okay.
Because they're kind of like a religious dictatorship, if you will.
Okay.
And that was stupidly controversial because it was the turn of the millennium, and it was all like all the Christians got really mad and stuff.
Because the world was ending.
No, because it was the premise of killing God.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you just meant the Christians were up in arms generally.
As in real life.
Because there were a lot of doomsday cults about the millennium.
Well, no, it wasn't to do with the millennium, but you know how when Harry Potter came out, some Christians got mad because, witches and stuff?
Yeah, witchcraft and
This
stuff.
was much worse because Philip Pullman was talking about killing God.
It's fiction. Deal with it.
Yeah, I know it's fiction, but they got mad. But it just reminded me of that.
D&D, I have my players kill gods quite often.
Yeah, it's cute.
So, yeah, I mean, this is the thing. For real evil, you don't have to be evil alignment. You just have to believe what you're doing is right. And
Absolutely.
that, I think the best villains are lawful good. Because the problem with evil villains is that, like, if you're using alignment in your games and your villain is evil, then it's too simple, too black and white.
I wasn't thinking of that specifically, but for example, looking back at the villains I've created, not all of them have been lawful. I think I've had a couple that were, say, more down the neutral territory, for example. But
your best villains...
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that a lot of my favourite villains in, say, media are lawful evil because they have this plan, this idea, whereas somebody who, like, for example...
Can you name some?
Yeah, so, for example, and this is why I really like this, specifically it's Disney, but in The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Frollo... He is a member of the church. He sees himself as a good person because he believes in God.
Mm-hmm.
He is very lawful evil because he's very much evil. He tries to murder people and you know, the whole thing of Quasimodo. He just wants to kill him because he doesn't care about him. But
okay, but he's in a role that you would naturally give a lawful good character to.
Precisely. So he is lawful evil. But what I mean is that if you're just getting rid of any kind of character and look at the alignment here, I prefer lawful evil as opposed to, say, chaotic evil, because it's like they have their own plans, their own motives that they follow.
This is where, like, I struggle with alignment as a useful tool.
Oh yeah, I don't mean as a tool.
I think what makes the good
point of discussion
is the lawful belief.
Yeah,
they have to believe.
Yeah.
And following the law or being in a position to define the law is a useful attribute to give a villain.
But what I mean is, for example, you've got the Joker, who is chaotic evil. Most definitely.
Okay, yeah.
He doesn't give a fuck about law. He does what he wants. He blows up a hospital. He puts two boats against each other. Well, yeah, I mean, you could think he was good, but he's definitely chaotic as opposed to lawful.
Yes, very chaotic. Yeah.
He wants chaos to reign and all this stuff. But I think, yeah, for a villain, I do latch onto the more lawful villains because of how they think. It's kind of it's like I want to like them even though they're evil. I love to hate them.
So Glenn is asking, lawful evil, lawful good, is there a lawful neutral? Yes. Under the D&D system, there's the 9 combinations.
Lawful neutral is basically a judge of a court.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. It was allegedly. But that's how I've always seen it, like in terms of a comparison or an actor or whatever.
Right.
I have not seen Les Miserables.
I also thought about a villain, a neutral druid trying to get balance in the world.
Oh, that's cool. That reminds me...
Of Jedi.
No. Of Comoros in Corporation, because if you've not played Corporation before, there is a specific corporation called Comoros that is very much to do with their telepathy powers and nature, and they're a bit kind of anti-capitalist and all that stuff. But they can be seen as really quite bad because they're trying to overthrow certain things, or
they want to get rid of the world government.
They're still terrorists and things like that. So they can be, depending on how you want to play your campaign in Corporation, they can very much be the bad people. So yeah, I like that. In that this neutral druid trying to obtain balance, but that means they have to either kill people or they have to do something else. I like that.
You know what I kind of think, though, is a bit dry now and a bit overdone.
What?
The concept of balance itself. Like, I think Star Wars has just ruined it. And, like, Star Wars kind of ignored it. It's like, the Jedi are trying to bring balance to the Force. But the good people have control of the government now. If you bring balance, you kind of bring evil in.
That's not quite right.
I know, but, like, if you just distill it down...
No, you've got the Jedi and you've got the Sith. This is before the whole Grey Jedi came into being. There's the Old Republic, which talks about the Sith of old and whatever, and then the Jedi overthrew them, and that became the Republic. What they're saying is there is one person, aka Anakin Skywalker, who's supposed to bring balance to the Force. It's not the Jedi who want to bring balance to the Force, necessarily. It's this one person will bring balance.
Well, they do want to, make him a Jedi in order because he's the chosen one type thing.
Yeah, but I find that silly, because if he's the one to bring balance to the Force, why
then
would he then choose a side?
The power.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's silly.
So, because they want to influence him, that's why they bring him in.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense that the Jedi would even support the idea of a chosen one.
No, and that's why I like the Grey Jedi, because they're neutral. They appreciate some elements of the dark side, because they keep their emotion, and they think that not marrying is bullshit and things like that. But
and if the Jedi really did believe that Anakin was going to bring balance to the Force, then they surely should have instructed him in the dark side. Yeah, otherwise, they must have known that he would.
We've just established a massive plot hole, George Lucas.
Well, no, this has been bothering me since The Phantom Menace.
Okay, I've never really thought about it.
But... Yeah, I have. I'm sorry, repeatedly, and to my great disappointment. Right, I think we've missed some chat. We might need to go over there and scroll back.
Okay.
By we, I mean you.
Yes, Dad.
Alright, what have we got? So, no, that's alright. I also thought about a villain, a neutral droid. Right, so we talked about that.
Yeah, good one, yeah. And by what measure does he judge balance?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a good thing. What is balance? And here's the thing, like, when you say you want to balance good and evil, does that mean you go, oh, look, somebody just did a good act, I now need to punch somebody?
It was never fully explained as to...
And that's why I kind of don't like alignments. They're just so broken as an idea. I mean, they're kind of very Christian ideology anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Gary Gygax was a devout Christian.
Yeah, but also with the Star Wars thing as well, that is a very Christian thing, and that Anakin came from...
Star Wars is basically
Anakin was
Jesus.
Born of a virgin, and yada yada yada.
Yeah, the whole thing was based on like every religion ever anyway. Right, Michael from The Good Place as my basis on an evil angel, says Fire Scarab.
As in, well, Michael as in the Archangel, maybe? Or from, I don't know what The Good Place is.
I don't know, I think we're midway through a conversation there. Especially those who justify overreaching laws because they're the law. That's very Judge Dreddy. But,
yes.
Defense of the Black Eye. Okay, so we're reading reactions to stuff we talked about ages back. So,
sorry.
Why is necromancy always
evil?
Fire Scarab.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, when is it called necromancy or resurrection?
The difference in D&D lore is that resurrection retains the soul. No. Wait, yes, resurrection, you get your soul back. Necromancy, you don't. You're just animating the body. The body is a tool.
Okay.
To be honest, I don't consider necromancy evil, which probably makes me a necromancer.
but outside the D&D realms, it's a similar sort of premise in that you're reanimating something that's died.
I think it's because, as a society, we give reverence to the dead. We think the dead should be allowed to rest in peace.
Yeah, and again, it's a whole Christian thing of, like, there's the resurrection of the dead. And
it's not just
like
Christian, though. Lots of religions. Most
true,
cultures on Earth will revere the dead.
Yeah.
True. And so when you disturb that, you're disturbing. Essentially, you're going against society, and really, when you think about what good and evil is in alignment, really, it's against society. Like, if you're helping society, that's good. If you're hurting society, that's evil. So necromancy must be evil because society reveres the dead, even if they treat elderly badly and everything else. But
well, I was just thinking, we seem to take a lot more care in dead or people who have not been born compared to people who are actually alive. Just in general.
Well, yeah, it's because everyone favours the underdog, right? It's a natural instinct to defend people who can't defend themselves.
Yeah.
Because they're underdogs, etc. You know, and the whole underdog story is a great, again, storytelling thing.
Well, most fear their mother-in-law returning again and again.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you had the
well,
power
your mother-in-law's pretty decent.
My mother-in-law is actually alright. Let's move on quickly. They should have asked the Force what balance means. It could be a black hole or a Force userless galaxy.
Well, yeah, exactly. The Sith and the Jedi could have cancelled each other out.
Wasn't there something about a galaxy without the Force somewhere in Star Wars canon? I'm trying to think.
Know.
It might have been from a computer
Need
game.
another Wii.
Oh, I've got to carry things by myself for a bit.
Won't be long.
Right. So McGuffins. Right. Right. So what makes a good McGuffin? And I think basically. Oh, no, we've had a question. Thank you for saving me. I'm the good place. Michael is an architect for the afterlife who has built. Michael is an architect for the afterlife who has built an entire afterlife to torment 4 human souls, says Flair Scarab. I'm not quite understanding the statement. I'm so sorry. Could it be in the good place? So in a heaven, a character called Mike. Sorry, what's the context here? Context is this a game you're running, or something? Because I mean, it sounds like Michael is a kind of devil character because tormenting people. I always argued the devil is actually really really good, because in the good place, Michael is an architect. Have you found the devil's name is the devil called Michael? Because the devil is essentially really good. He's the one who punishes bad people. So how is he bad? God just abandons you. So he's the evil one, right? He doesn't try and get you on the straight and narrow. The devil does that. Right. McGuffins. Now I've just isolated even more of our subscribers and made them run away. So I think we've established like a bad MacGuffin is when you have this device and it's just useful to you. And I think the most important thing with a MacGuffin, if you achieve nothing else, the most important thing is that you do not ever have your MacGuffin resolve your plot. Like, the resolution is like, so, for example, and actually it's a bad example, I'm sorry, but Lord of the Rings does not end when the ring goes in the volcano.
No,
right,
although in the
Mount
movie
Doom.
that's debatable because they did a million scenes one after the other and never ended, and it's like,
I don't recall the book ending then either, even though I read the book.
No, it didn't. But it became particularly notorious that there were so many scenes after that.
But that I think was correct. It's just that maybe those scenes weren't very good.
They were pointless.
Yeah, some of them should have been cut. But they needed to stretch it to 3 films. So, in which case, make the battle at the Black Gate better. Seriously, what's budget, I suppose?
Yeah, compared to Pelennor Fields, that was terrible.
Yeah, but I suppose we'd already had a battle in that film, hadn't we? And Pelennor Fields, actually, the ending of that was disappointing. Just have the ghost army wander in.
Yeah, and then it's like invincible.
I understand why they didn't have Aragorn go through Gondor and raise an army, because like in the books, Aragorn goes through Gondor, goes around all the towns and cities, raises an army of mostly humans. He just has one contingent of undead, and they're not like completely invincible and just solves the whole problem.
Yeah.
I understand why they cut that corner, but I always kind of hated the ending of Pelennor Fields, where the ghosts just arrive and sort the whole problem, and you may as well have not turned up.
Helm's Deep is just so much better.
Yeah, I think it's a better battle scene. Yeah. But they don't literally catapult entire bits of city at the enemy.
No, but when they do, they break bits and then the whole tower falls down, which it shouldn't do. That makes no sense.
Nah. But then the orcs catapult people.
That was cool. They catapulted the dead heads of people. Yeah, that was cool. That was an idea. Nice idea.
And you saw, like, ragdolls falling off of Minas Tirith.
Yes.
I liked that.
Yes.
Anyway, where were we?
I don't know. I went for the loo.
Never use your... never end your plot resolution shouldn't end with your MacGuffin achieving... with the players doing whatever it is with the MacGuffin. And this is important because, as we've established, the people, the players, the human beings behind the characters at your table do not care about the MacGuffin. Even if you've tried to counter that to some degree with some storytelling and some lore and everything else, the reality is that MacGuffin ultimately is just a ruse for your story, right? It's a device. It's a storytelling device. So when you put your Tesseract into the quadramorphic amplification device, or whatever it is that resolves your story,
Or the ruby slippers in Wizard of Oz.
yes, that is a MacGuffin. All she has to do is click her feet together. There was a sequel to The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
By Disney.
I know.
Okay.
Well, Wicked.
No.
Oh, Return to Oz or something.
Yeah.
It was
where
shit.
she was actually mental.
Oh.
And she was in a lunatic asylum.
No, I didn't know.
It didn't go down well.
No.
Where was I? Yes. So if you resolve your story with that device, your players aren't going to get the real resolution they need.
No.
I would much rather that was midway through your campaign, and then the big bad villain NPC swears his revenge. To me, that then have a whole second part of the campaign where the big bad guy is coming after the players. Like, don't end with your MacGuffin resolving your story arc. I think that's just boring.
Well, TLDR, if your players aren't invested in the item, once that item has resolved the adventure, then they're not going to care.
Yes, but I think that's still true even if you get your players to at some level care about the MacGuffin. It's still, you shouldn't end with, yay, we saved the universe. There should be some threat of vengeance or some threat to the players or to them as people or to their families or something.
Actually, I've just thought of another MacGuffin.
Oh?
The Death Star.
The Death Star does actually blow up a planet, though.
It does, but what I like is that they blew up the Death Star and it was like, yeah, it's so amazing, but that didn't matter at all.
Only in the context of there being more movies. If you think about the Death Star as a MacGuffin for Star Wars itself, then that pretty much was the end.
But
There was just a medal ceremony where nobody moves.
Yes, but remember that Vader spun away.
Oh, they left
in
it
his
open
ship.
for a sequel.
Yes.
But the blowing up of the Death Star was pretty much the end of the film. There were no new plot points introduced as a consequence of the Death Star.
Okay, but yeah, the point was that Lucas had planned them all anyway or something.
Yes. flare scarab.
Yes,
R2D2 is a good McGuffin.
Yes.
You care about R2D2
Friggin'
because he's a droid. He's got character. He's got personality. But
Nostalgia Critic was literally saying this in like a video 2 days ago about Star Wars, and the same with like the new movies, in that you have like some plans or some map or something. You don't care about that, but you care about the droid that it goes into.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what's clever.
That is true.
Yes.
Having said that, what's episode 7 called? Return of the Jedi?
No,
that's 6.
Force Awakens.
But thank you, Force Awakens. Sorry, I've had several beers. I should know this stuff. In the Force Awakens, it doesn't add up. BB-8, we're supposed to care about BB-8. I don't really, but
he's a bit cute.
You think he's cute?
He's cute. That's it. He's not as enhanced or as established as R2D2.
I'm not gonna begrudge them for bringing a new character in.
Also, bear in mind, I saw R2D2 first in episode 1, so I saw his origin.
Millennials. Well, you didn't really, because he was already a pre-existing, established thing in episode 1, in the sense that that wasn't when he was made. Like, you saw the creation of C-3PO, you didn't see the creation of R2-D2.
Well, no,
but
because C-3PO was already made as well.
My point is there's a major plot hole in The Force Awakens. And it was solvable with one line of dialogue, and it's not in the... Hello, Fuke. It was not in the film. Because there's a map to Luke. Like, seriously, WTF, why is there a map to a person? This isn't Harry Potter. Why is there a map to... They could have solved this just by saying, we're recreating Luke's research. But that line isn't there. So what is this map to Luke? It's ridiculous and childish. That's how shallow the MacGuffin and how uncaring they were about it.
In the first series of Last Jedi, that completely like steps away from that point anyway. Why would they have a map to Luke when Luke does not want to be contacted in any shape or form?
Yeah, it gets even worse. So, if they were recreating or finding Luke's old research, if they just explained why that map was one line of dialogue, and there's several lines they could have given, but it would have fixed the whole film. But they were so shallow about their MacGuffin.
Maybe they'd piece together little traces of his ship somewhere.
There are lots of ways to explain it
together, but no.
And start introducing lore as a consequence. But this is my point. That they were so right. We need a MacGuffin to find Luke. Mapping the droid. And as far as they were concerned, job done. But if they'd have thought about why is there a map, easily solved, one line could have done it.
But they didn't.
They would have started to introduce the lore, and we would have seen backstory and reasons, and that could have led to side quests and other things.
And also that would make more sense, because it would be not the rebellion, but whatever the fuck they're called, the resistance. The resistance are trying to do something and find Luke and do all this stuff themselves. And then Luke is like, oh, fuck that, I'm going to throw the lightsaber over the cliff. And no, I don't care about it. You know, that would make way more sense than, oh, we found a map to Luke that he's left or something, but then he doesn't care anyway. No.
Yeah.
No.
One line of dialogue could have fixed it. And that is kind of the risk with using MacGuffins, is you've got to make sure that you don't do a Force Awakens.
Yeah, and that they're watertight and that they make sense, and also that the characters are invested, which is really hard.
Trying to read the next question. R2-D2 is secretly behind everything. Yes, he's
well,
in
he
every
is
film,
because
so,
he's in every film. His memory wasn't wiped, like C-3PO's, for example.
Really?
Yes, in episode 3, C-3PO's memory was wiped because he's a protocol droid. Whereas in R2-D2, they didn't bother, which is convenient. But that's why R2-D2 knows about all the stuff, and to get the stuff from Leia and things. I'm finishing my sentence.
Yeah, but are you cheating on me? Apparently, we're awesome to wake up to.
Good morning.
Carry on.
Well, you interrupted me as I was just finishing off.
Yeah, but that was
yes
funny.
Again. Well, I said that before, but yeah, it's like R2D2. He's in every film. His memory is not wiped, so he's fully aware of what's happening and why he needs the stuff from Leia
I'm
to
sure they
send
said
to Kenobi.
end of episode 3.
Yes.
In fact, I know who it was. The father that took in Princess Leia. What's his name?
Organa.
Organa, yeah. Mr. Organa. I can't remember the first name of the character, but I'm sure he says wipe the memory on the droids. I'm sure it's plural.
No, it's not. I have the episode 3 visual dictionary, or I did have it. It's only C-3PO's memory that's wiped. Because he is a protocol droid, whereas R2-D2 is just an astral droid. Nobody cares about him. That's why R2-D2 knows to take it to Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's how he knows who Obi-Wan Kenobi is.
Something I missed.
Yeah.
Star Trek didn't use my like to explain the kitchen scene as to why they had to cook by hand in the movie The Undiscovered Country. Like equals line. Star Trek didn't use my line to explain the kitchen scene as to why they had to cook by hand in the movie The Undiscovered. I haven't seen The Undiscovered Country, so I don't know the reference. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I've only seen The Wrath of Khan. That's the only Star Trek I've actually seen.
I've seen them. I think I've seen them all. I'm not sure if I've seen the latest.
I'm a Star Wars person, not a Star
Trek.
The
last
person.
one I saw was the Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan movie.
Really? At least I've seen the original.
Benedict Cumberbatch is kind of annoying because he's a really, really good actor, but I don't like him. But he's really good, but I don't like him. Khan! I don't like Kirk as a character. Nothing against the actor. Don't like Kirk. And Spock, the actor.
Yeah, but the
guy
the original guy who played Kirk also played the big giant head in Third Rock from the Sun, which was a hilarious sitcom.
William Shatner.
Yeah.
He's built his entire career out of being Kirk, so, you know.
That's the salute to the big giant head.
I wondered what you were doing. I thought you were trying to sort of...
Yeah, Third Rock from the Sun was an American sitcom where he was the big giant head, but he told these aliens to come down to Earth and pretend to be humans and kind of fit in. And it was pretty funny. I liked it.
I think I've seen an episode or two of it. Yeah. Right, so Wrath of Khan was the best Star Trek movie.
Because he has a big ego.
I don't know. It was all of the... It was so biblical.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. The motion picture, I quite didn't like, actually. No, I didn't like it. It was kind of weird. It was like they'd had the TV series. Now let's do a movie. Let's bring in a new cut. Like there was all these extra characters that weren't explained. They weren't part of Star Trek canon. There was that bald woman, for example. I think she only appears in the scene where the colours are all wishy-washy.
I tell a massive lie. I have seen a snippet of one episode of the TV series.
Really? Have you seen that little Star Trek?
What's the name of the main AI robot guy?
In the Next Generation, that would be Data.
He's got the green suit
Something
on.
Spencer is his name. Williams.
He's got the green suit on.
Green suit? You know, one wears a green suit, it's yellow.
What's yellow?
Data
green?
wears yellow.
Okay, so it's Data then. I remember seeing a TV episode where he has a nightmare that he's been taken apart. That's all I can remember then.
I've seen many Star Trek episodes. You're thinking, I think, specifically of the Next Generation.
Maybe, I don't
because
know.
there's an AI bloke, as you put it.
No, it's the famous guy who's not. He's non-human, so he wears the sort of green yellow suit.
The non-human in Star Trek. Do you know how many? There's Worf, who's a Klingon.
No, not Klingon, as in robotic. You know what I mean?
Robotic. That sounds like the Next Generation. So, who was the captain? Was it Jean-Luc Picard?
No, it was friggin' what's his name?
William Shatner.
No, not William Shatner. Bald.
Yeah.
Paul-
That's Jean-Luc Picard, a fantastic guy, but no, the character was called Jean-Luc Picard.
not Jean-Luc Picard. Fucking Ian McKellen's BFF.
I know exactly who you mean. I can't remember his real name.
Why do I not know his name?
Really famous actor, English.
Yeah.
Yeah. He played the character Jean-Luc Picard.
Oh, I see. I thought you meant that was the actor's name. I'm like,
No.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't remember his name for some reason either.
Jesus.
Possibly Beer.
That's really embarrassing.
Yes. Now the character you're thinking of was wearing yellow. He was dating.
Patrick
he was a robot.
Stewart.
Thank you. Yes, Patrick
thank you.
Stewart. I first saw Patrick Stewart in June. It was the first film I saw him in, and he just stood out because he was just epic. He is epic in everything he does.
Yeah, but anyway, the point is, yes. So I watched that one episode when I was very young, and I just didn't get into it in the same way I got into Star Wars.
You know my problem with Star Trek?
What?
Right, it's essentially it's America, right? Or meant to be a cross section of American culture.
Okay.
The Federation is America 5,000 years or 500 years in the future or whatever. Right? Star Trek Next Generation, one black person.
Oh. Well, I was like 5 at the time when I saw this episode, so I wasn't really thinking about such things.
DS9, they did have a black captain, in fairness. I didn't really watch much DS9, but because I wasn't at that point in my life, I was doing other things and watching telly. But Star Trek The Next Generation I've seen a lot of. That's kind of the one I know most.
And now I've got the
one
Rock
black
from the
person.
Sun theme song in my head. Do 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 bum dum bum dum.
McGuffins.
Yes,
I think
McGuffins.
I've actually said everything about McGuffins I wanted to say. The
Yes,
only
I
thing
think
is,
so.
I said it over a 2-hour period. So I can still, I think,
Yeah, there's
realistically do a video on it at some point in the future.
no, and then there's beer and juice as well. Of course we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do a McGuffins video.
So, right, guys, I think we are we're kind of out of questions. So if you've got anything else you want to ask, preferably RPG related, get it in quick, because we're possibly going to end soon and go
And
to
fall
bed
asleep.
and do stuff.
Because it's not the
But-
morning here.
I have to say, we've had, as a year, Para Geeks has been on a bit of a journey this year. We have done a lot less videos because we've been filming. We've done many fewer videos because we've been filming for Com Plus One. Com Plus One has been and gone.
Yes.
You're going to get all the interviews we filmed. You're getting them at lightning speed at the minute. We had Amanda Hammoncoons yesterday. Tomorrow you're getting Oliver Hume. Very soon, possibly the day after, don't know yet. You're going to get Matthew Strange. Who are these people? Sorry. Author of Starfinder, author of Elite Dangerous RPG, author of Traveller 2nd Edition. Respectively. And then you're going to get Sam Webb, author of Star Trek that we were just talking about. That was interviewed by Lloyd Gann, who guest starred with us at Com Plus One.
And as I said, we're going to do some more board game type content, and I've got a music type video in mind for all your music needs.
Now I've had this really... I'm sorry.
You keep doing this to me.
It's not that I'm interrupting you speaking, I'm just keeping the energy going.
But you are, because I'm literally about to say something and then you stop me from talking.
Right, okay, so back when I used to watch Formula One many years ago, the two commentators, when I first started watching it, hated each other at first. And it's because...
What are you trying to say here?
It's because they kept talking over each other. They developed a system to let the other know when they wanted to say something, which was to put the hand on their shoulder.
Well, I hadn't finished yet.
How am I to know?
Because I hadn't put my hand on you or anything.
We didn't establish that. Right, talk.
Have you now forgotten what I was going to say?
You're going to do a video on music.
Yes, music needs and stuff. Yes, that was what I was going to say.
This is a solid relationship. There's no tension.
This is what I was going to say, in that also on Parageeks 2, I'm going to be running a Call of Cthulhu campaign set in the 1980s.
You could have still said that. It didn't matter what order it was in.
Yeah, but I forgot what I was going to say, and I was on a flow that you broke cataclysmically.
A couple of months ago, Jason helped me film a video on the Battle of Naseby, and it was the first time we'd done history as a video. And I kind of originally I filmed this like half-hour second part to that video, and I didn't like it, and I threw most of it away and edited it down into like 8 seconds added on to the end where I did this. This like, and then I'm going to put some chisel message in my statue, blah, blah, blah. And it was really out of context and kind of weird to anyone who watched it for the history. I have been researching another history video, and I wrote a script, and I never write a script because I am basically ad hoc to the extent that Jason finds it infuriating.
I found scripts very good because as I start writing them, I get more ideas, and then I form them together and enhance them, and it's like, okay. So if I forget about the ideas, I can go back to the script and think about the ideas that made me come up with the script.
Yeah, I don't do that, but I wrote this script that I'm not happy with, and the reason there is this thing, there is a bit of history that has been lost, right? So I want to do this video on, it's a battle that happened in a town called Northampton in the middle of England.
Oh, that one, yeah.
And it's interesting for a number of reasons, which we'll get to. It's to do with the use of artillery, how it impacted the battle. It's to do with the very last privately funded battle in Britain, which was not the Battle of Northampton, but it's all kind of involved.
Fiuk is even saying, do more history videos.
As is Glenn Davis.
Oh, okay. We are Lindy Beige 2.0.
You know, we nearly did a collab with Lindy Page.
We did.
Yeah.
Nearly.
I think I scared him off. The problem, I think he was just scared of my immense presence and charisma and our combined knowledge of history, and he thought, oh my god, if I get these people on, I look like an idiot. That's what I think. He'll have a different story, like, oh, those two weirdos. So, where was I going? Now you've thrown me off. You interrupted me.
You're doing more history videos.
Yes. I'm working on this video concept. The problem is there's a bit of history that has actually been lost to history.
Yeah, it's a bit
and I really want to find that missing link before I do it. So what this video has turned me into, usually I just stand in front of a camera and I just rattle off some rubbish, right?
Whereas now you actually have to do some research.
Doing the research is taking over my life.
Yes, that's what you're going to do.
You know, but history has forgotten the details. I haven't got the money to go to Great Yarmouth and then go down to Bristol to find these missing links, if they even exist out there. They're not on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like when you review anything, you've got to research the products and stuff.
There's research and there's research. I'm rediscovering lost history. And I say I'm rediscovering. I haven't rediscovered it yet. That's the problem. You know, I don't know what the answer is.
Anyway, that's a work in progress.
Yeah. But plenty more videos to come in the coming days. Lots more Com+1 interviews to air. If you want to see some Com+2 interviews ahead of time, join our Patreon. Glenn, you almost were a Patreon.
Not quite.
Not quite.
Go and sort your account out, please.
Yeah. Yeah, so more stuff is coming, and thank you for putting up with us tonight whilst we drunkenly appeared on camera.
Well, you were.
Are you sober?
I'm not sober. But
Good, because if you're sober and I'm drunk, that probably means I'm in trouble.
No, I'm not sober, thank God. But
relief.
But you did drink that first beer very quickly.
It was quite strong as well.
Yes, it was 6.5%. I was saying to the audience here.
Yeah. So adult content. What?
So, I mean, we've got other patrons who are doing fine, but okay.
Oh, yeah. School teacher face. Wow.
I used to be a teacher. It's like someone who would turn up to choir practice really late or not at all and then give some excuse and it's like, yes, but seriously, other people can turn up just fine, so what's the problem? It's my nature.
So Glenn Davis wants to know what happened to Davis Castle. No, I said no. I didn't mean no as in no. I meant no as in no doubt. No doubt you do. I'm very drunk, aren't I?
No doubt. I just want
Let me tell you. Right, no.
Let me tell you.
I'm not that drunk. Davis Castle. I have no idea. It sounds Welsh. Is it a real thing?
I don't know what that is. Well, apparently it's a ruin now.
Well, Davis is a very Welsh name.
Yes.
If I'm going to do some Welsh folklore, which I would love to do, because Welsh folklore is underreported and there's some really amazing stuff.
Okay.
Right, for example, right, the word Merlin. You've all heard of Merlin from the Legend of Arthur. We recently did a game about the Legend of Arthur. Right, Merlin was completely misused in that.
Mm-hmm.
Merlin, in ancient Welsh, referred to a homeless wild man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there were 3 Merlins in history. In one particular area.
Mm-hmm.
They were considered to be wild, rambling lunatics whose words could be considered wise. Right? That is a Merlin. So it's not a person, it's a homeless person living in a forest who's a little bit mental and rants. And those rantings might be wise insights into portents.
And yes, the original legend is Welsh, yes.
Yes, it is. And it is actually a simile for Owain Gwyndor. If you want to know who King Arthur is, it's Owain. Oh wait, no, it's a W, which in Welsh is U. So
Yes.
Owain
Gwyndor.
Gwyndor were in English, but in Welsh. Gwyndor. Something like that. I'm sorry if I don't get the pronunciation correct. I'm doing my best, Welsh people. Slebog.
You just spat on me.
That's why you speak Welsh. It's so you can spit on people.
Lovely, thanks.
I also said I called Welsh people sluts just then. I'm sorry. In Welsh.
Say that when you're sober, lol.
I will try. Owain.
You're not sober though.
Owain. It's still a W. I can't imagine Owain.
I don't get it because it's such a different language
Anyway,
to Manx Gaelic. I don't understand how you do it.
He was the last king of Wales, and he had a conflict with the English. I'm trying to remember which one. I'm sure it was a Henry.
Who hasn't had a conflict with the English?
I think it might have been the Tudors.
Oh.
But I'm not 100% sure. He was the last king of Wales, and basically he's King Arthur. And the whole legends, Welsh folklore is kind of based on this time, this period of history. The whole thing of the Red Dragon, Idre Goch, is the Red Dragon is representative of Wales. The White Dragon, there is a White Dragon in Welsh folklore that is representative of England. Now the 2 dragons fought and waged
yes, I know this. Yes,
war.
They waged war, and the whole point was that there
Every
was
time...
what was he called? Vortigern wanted to build a tower with the dragons underneath.
Right, before you get to that, every time the dragons roared in their fight, women would miscarry, and there was famine across the land, and sheep and livestock would die.
And the tower would burn down and shit.
Right? You have to bear in mind that at this point in history, there was a famine. And even in Wales today, leeks are considered potatoes.
Wait.
Not literally, but leeks were a substitute for potatoes because of famine.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it's why the leek is the national food of Wales. right? This all ties into Welsh folklore stuff. It's fascinating, right? So when the dragons roared, there would all be all these problems. Now Merlin, or a Merlin, not the Merlin, because there is no the Merlin, it's a Merlin, was summoned to the round table to and actually the whole where the round table is, North Wales, by the way. There's a castle, I'm trying to remember the name of it, and I'm afraid I can't right now. So a Merlin came up with the idea of getting the dragons drunk. So they built this big bowl of alcohol, and the dragons drank from it, and they fell asleep under the land. And I can't remember the rest of that folk tale. But that's basically it. And then there's so much other cool stuff with Welsh folklore as well. Even when you move beyond dragons and Merlin and King Arthur, you've got the city of Cadathil and the Bard's College and the Great Library. Oh, I wonder what these are based on. And the Walls of Gold. And basically Welsh folklore is really cool. And I've long since wanted to do more with it. So as it was established earlier, I've written some computer games. I'm one of the few who's actually released an MMO, had 35,000 players. It did very well. I was working on another that was going to be a high fantasy one, because the first one was to do with motor racing. The second one was going to be high fantasy, and I was basing it all on Welsh folklore. That's how much I want to do a Welsh folklore thing. It's some really cool Welsh folklore.
I'm assuming the three dragons have nothing to do with Welsh folklore.
I believe they do not. It's lions, by the way, not dragons.
Well, I was just about to say that they weren't dragons, as far as I remember.
The English banner has...
And I'm not lions. Even English.
But the Welsh dragon is Iddregoch. Do it, I'll play. Right, so I got quite a long way in. I have screenshots. In fact, I think I still got the code somewhere. But that MMO, I didn't finish the second one, the fantasy one. The reason I didn't was because I ran into technical problems with the engine, a memory leak. I didn't create the engine, the 3D renderer that is part of it. I was creating the game engine. The 3D renderer that had the memory leak, I went through several iterations of trying to improve it, but the person creating that eventually gave up, and that kind of killed the project. Although I think I kind of gave up before then, to be honest. I couldn't get Cadathil to render. I had 2/3 of the city, but you wander around it for a while. After like 45 minutes it would crash, or if I tried to add more to the city it would crash. So I couldn't finish building this city, but it was great. It had back streets and quarters and all sorts, but I was never going to be able to add the NPC without it crashing, and it needed lots of NPC. It was supposed to be a city, so I had farms, and I even had a Merlin, who was this crazy wild man who was building this house in the stupidest place possible because it was supposed to be crazy. It was cool. It was going to be a great MMO, but it had goblins too. I was going to use the Osric rule set. I had the Osric license for it and everything. It was going to be cool, but I didn't finish it. It had a really cool grass system as well. No, seriously. Like, there was some really good technical stuff in there. Like, splat shaders. Alright, I'm not going to go into detail about this, but most splat shaders are only 5-way. Mine was 56-way. It was a technical revolution, and integrated into that was this awesome shell shader that did the grass. So basically, my animals could graze the grass, and you'd see the grass getting shorter. And if there were too many animals in an area, the grass would get short, and then it would recover over time once the animals had moved on. It was really cool. I love doing technical stuff like that. Anyway, not going to go and explain that in any more detail. Glenn Davis is getting hungry. I am dying for the loo. We're definitely rambling, and we're going to go to bed soon. So thank you very much for watching. Happy Saturnalia. Look forward to loads more videos over the Christmas periods for us. They're all pre-recorded Con+1 interview stuff. You're going to love them. And stuff. So have a great Saturnalia, season's greetings, Merry Christmas, whatever the fuck, Hanukkah, and whatever else you celebrate. Kwanzaa, Kwatsi.
Quatsy.
I don't know. I made that up.
Wow.
And
a fantastic Yule.
Yeah. Personally, I like celebrating Saturnalia. Now, in order to end the stream, I'm going to go over there. So, it's the little red broadcast word. Yeah.
Right, so you can say bye.
Bye.
Bye.